Russia calling on the government to lift the current sanctions, as you mentioned. Der Spiegel and NTV are implying that AfD is a project of the Kremlin, Moscow's fifth column in Germany, financed by the Russian government. Your party's views on Russia relations are rather conciliatory more than anything else. Is that why AfD is branded a Russian agent?
Well, of course, you see this sort of pseudo message has been carried through official media all in Germany, but it's complete rubbish. We are a democratic German party, and we are financed according to German party rules. And of course, we're not financed by the Kremlin. We've never been.
Let's talk a bit about your party. It's super controversial. It's talked about a lot. Now, the AfD made significant gains recently in regional elections in Germany. You now have representation in half of the 16 regional parliaments. According to Deutsche Welle, Angela Merkel has said that the votes for the AfD had been a protest against the unresolved question over the refugee issue and fears regarding their integration. Is that really the cornerstone of your success?
You see, that's a rather simple conclusion from what's happening in Germany, but I can understand why Angela Merkel tries to simply put it down to the migration and refugee crisis. I think the results for our successes, for our continuing success, has to be looked at a much deeper level, because AfD started its political life in 2013 criticizing the failing euro currency, criticizing the European Union, which is not functioning properly anymore, because it's left its very successful way of developing countries competing with each other rather than harmonizing everything. And of course, the migration crisis is just another symptom of this failing development in Europe. But yes, Angela Merkel opened German borders for everyone wanting to come to Germany, not distinguishing between real refugees and migrants from all over the world, especially from North Africa. And naturally, people in Germany are waking up, realizing that our chancellor has given up sovereignty of the country. She's given up our borders. She's given up our rules and regulations by simply letting everybody in. So that this makes people angry, I think, is perfectly understandable. And we'll see over the coming months lots of problems in the education field, in the labor market, in all those places where people cannot be simply integrated into. And the fairy tale of migrants coming to Germany and being the enriching factor for our economy has been proven to be false. And there are no concepts of our government how to deal with the situation.
But okay, back to the migration policy. Even Chancellor Merkel's supporters are unhappy about the way she's handling the refugee crisis. For example, her Bavarian ally, Horst Seehofer, is demanding a change of course. Why insist on a policy that welcomes all when your own allies aren't even supporting it?
Well, you see, this is really a question that you shouldn't ask me, but you should ask Angela Merkel. And nobody seems to understand her. And the very tiny steps she's making forward to correct some of the mistakes the government has made over a long time will not help to ease the situation. But then you see, Horst Seehofer is not a real danger to Angela Merkel, because he criticizes her one day, but agrees with her major policies the day after. So what the CSU, the Bavarian Christian party, does is to criticize locally, but to agree all over Germany. So this is not going to change the situation. Basically, Seehofer behaves as if he was opposition within the government, and this is not going to work as long as in the end he doesn't stand up to actually pull his ministers, his secretaries from the government, takes them back to Bavaria to simply end this coalition.
Yeah, the AfD says that unregulated asylum immigration harms Germany. But that sounds like something everyone would agree with. Do you really think the German government doesn't want to regulate immigration?
Well, if you look at European Union policies, if you see what United Nations said the other day, that they think that a worldwide distribution of refugees from all over the place is the new strategy. If you hear about European Commission telling us that there should be no country with its own unique population anymore, but we should all be sort of face migration waves as something normal to our home countries, then I think that this is not only a German policy. What we see in the European Union is that 26 out of 28 European countries have nationally changed their approach to migration, and that only Germany and maybe Greece are the two last countries that haven't faced the fact that population, citizens simply do not want this type of migration. So yes, I think that's the current situation, and Angela Merkel is not capable, obviously, to change this way, to leave this sort of strategy of illegal migration under asylum legislation, perhaps because it's too hard to admit that she's made a fundamental mistake.
Germany's state broadcaster IRD says that over 1,000 attacks against refugee shelters were registered in Germany last year. Anti-immigration violence has become a common thing in your country. Is there a danger that this type of violence can be contained?
Well, I think, first of all, it's important to say that no democratic politician should tolerate any violence against anyone. And at the same time, as we see rising violence against refugee shelters, we also see rising violence from the left extremist side against all sorts of citizens, politicians, offices, and all sorts of premises. So yes, we do have a violence problem, and I think this is just another symptom of the government not being capable to actually solve the problems, to create an atmosphere for citizens that allows us to look forward. So I think what we need is a clear analysis without any political influence on the one hand, and we need a perspective for all those people trying to get asylum in Germany, which means that we need very quick processes of deciding whether persons can stay or have to leave. And again, there we have a huge problem because we have hundreds of thousands of persons inside Germany within the asylum process, not knowing whether they will be allowed to stay or whether they will have to be sent back home. And the sending back home is not carried out by the federal states, it's not carried out by the federal government. So we have a severe problem there because it's very difficult to find a solution to the current situation.
All right, Dr. Petra, we're going to take a short break right now. When we deal with the European refugee crisis and the culture clash that may be brewing in Germany because of it. Welcome back, Dr. Petra. Now, little more about your party, right? The AfD's attitude towards Islam is skeptical. Islam does not belong in Germany is a part of your party's platform. And a recent poll conducted by Bild has shown that almost 2/3 of Germans share this view. That's 60% of your country's population. So what are the 5 million German Muslims supposed to do? Leave Germany?
Oh, no, not at all. You see, it's high time that we carry out a thorough and a very fact-based discussion about the problems to do with radical Islam. And what we find in Germany is a very difficult situation of actually carrying out that discussion because it's a very ideological problem. Of course, religion is something very emotional. Everyone understands that who belongs to a domination, be it Christian or be it Islam, Hindu or whatever. But we find that the rules and regulations of Sharia that are intimately connected to many Islam movements are not compatible with the German Grundgesetz, with German rules and regulations, and that is why we think we have to talk about it. We think that many Muslims in Germany actually quite like the spiritual side of their religion, but are not necessarily radical. But what they need to become aware of is that in the words of their religion, in the name of their religion, terrorist attacks are carried out. And if you look at Islamic interpretations, you find that they've never gone through a period of enlightenment like Christianity did. And that why is we have to address these problems connected to the Quran, connected to the Sharia.
Yeah, so do I gather correctly that you're actually against terrorism, not against Islam? Because these are two different things.
Well, yeah, on the first side, that might appear like that. But if you look at where Islamic terrorists stem from, how they argue what they do, you find that you have to look into the nature of Islam. You have to look in the nature of the Quran, what the Quran tells people to do, and you have to look into Sharia. And even today, and even a representative of Muslim groups in Germany tell us that they think the Sharia is compatible with the German Grundgesetz, and we clearly think that this is not the case. Look at this television study in Denmark, very recently carried out, that found out that we experience that a compatibility is announced in public, but what's spoken inside mosques and Quran schools is something completely different. And I think we face a similar problem in Germany, and we find that Muslim behavior of people being very much attracted by the Quran and its sayings actually have a problem to live, to accept that the German Grundgesetz, for example, is the legislation that counts more than the Sharia. And there are surveys, scientific surveys, actually agreeing on that. And that is why we cannot separate terrorism completely from the problem of radicalized Muslims.
Your party is advocating a ban on minarets and headscarves in schools. Why is it okay for the Swiss to ban minarets and the French to ban headscarves, but when you say you're labeled as an Islamophobe?
Oh, you see, that is one question you should ask our political opponents, but because we think that this discussion is absolutely necessary. And as you said, bans like that are possible in France and in Switzerland, both being democratic countries. So we think we should be having this discussion in Germany as well.
But here's what I'm thinking. Maybe more you ban things like that, more you provoke radicalism. Because terrorism in France, for instance, has only grown ever since Sarkozy has banned headscarves in universities and schools.
No, I actually don't agree on that interpretation, because I think it's very necessary to make clear what's the dominating rules and regulations in our country. And if we agree on the fact that many Sharia rules do not agree with our German democratic rules, then simply allowing something to exist on the side in a parallel society will not help the situation. Also, we find that moderate Muslims are actually quite thankful for us raising that discussion, because they feel very much, especially women, young women, imprisoned and let's say, missing the word now, but imprisoned by that sort of Sharia rules that they have to stick to at their homes. So I think freeing them, allowing them to live a life of independency is something we very much want. That's something we would like to help a lot. And this is not helped if we simply let Muslim rules, Sharia rules, being carried out without us even criticizing it.